Please someone to save me, I can't find myself. I'm totally lost.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. I love you. A bushel and a peck. A bushel and a peck. And a hug around the neck.
I don't like this.
Hello, and welcome to the Two Joints podcast, where, during our morning sesh, we discuss walking the paths of committed partnership, child-led parenting, healing and spiritual guideship, and creating an off-grid sustainable home in the jungle of Mexico. Roll one up, smoke 'em if you got 'em, and settle in for our extended safety meeting, strategizing divesting from capitalism and community building, with mutual respect for oneness and individuation.
On our first episode of Two Joints, we jump right in and talk about our favorite medicine and a new approach to problem substance use recovery. Well, again?
Good morning. Are you ready?
Good morning.
Good morning. What? You haven't even cheers to me. Ready?
Oh,
Salud.
Kitsy.
Kitty.
Morning.
Okay, see.
I like kissing.
I like some.
Alright, Kitsy, you in or you out here?
In or out?
Good choice. Don't eat my blanket.
If aliens landed up there
Yeah.
and walked down, and they were
Government issued it?
whatever. If beings we had never encountered before asked us our opinion, what is the most important medicine to keep if they're cleaning the house?
If they clean the house?
Yeah.
We can only keep one.
One.
I would say RSO.
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 Yesterday in my herbalism group, someone that wasn't me mentioned RSO, and they even used FECO. I was really...
Full Extract Cannabis Oil.
Yeah, I was really, really excited that I was no longer the only one
The only?
pushing. So that was exciting.
You are a pusher.
So RSO, Simpson Oil, Full Extract Cannabis Oil, FECO.
FECO.
What is it?
It's a extracted cannabis oil from the cannabis flower, usually using alcohol or some solvent that pulls off the cannabinoids from the plant material, and then that's evaporated off into the black goo, the black magic. And
it's something that everyone could potentially make.
Yeah, anyone can make it. It's a little precarious. You're evaporating volatile solvents, which can get away from you, and you can have fires from, and it's like growing plants, sourcing that amount of material. It's all precarious for average, everyday citizens that don't have a background or expertise in making medicine. But yeah, it's all doable. Yeah.
And when I used it, when I was super sick with my autoimmune flare, I finally got to experience like heavy dosing.
Yeah.
And it made me just respect our clients that had gone through the protocol before even more.
Yeah.
So I was pretty out of it. So describe what it's like to give someone heavy doses
Of
of
cannabis oil?
cannabis oil?
Well, it's a to me, I'm a little biased, but I think it's one of the most potent medicines.
And you've taken a lot of medicine.
I've taken a lot of medicines, and it's one of the most potent, and I believe one of the original medicines we've used for healing ourselves. It is, the first couple days, the first week to a week and a half on a intensive protocol is pretty intense. It's a lot of rest. It's a lot of uh, just hanging out and relaxing and getting acclimated with the medicine. And then, just to reiterate too, like you only start off with about a grain or 2 grains of rice worth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a very itty bitty amount, but it's very potent.
Right.
So, yeah, it definitely puts you in a state of relaxation,
Right.
and you're not going to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we first started using RSO for clients,
Yep.
the very first person was a cancer patient.
Morphine withdrawal.
Morphine,
So they
okay.
had multiple surgeries. The doctors had put them on morphine. They had kind of gotten not addicted to the morphine, but very used to the morphine in their everyday medical protocol. And then I think after a month or two, they realized they couldn't get off, and their quality of life was diminishing rapidly. So they reached out and asked if we had any answers for them. And yeah, it was our first RSO.
So then the second one must have been for cancer, and that's the one that
Yeah.
I must have been involved in, where we made it.
Yep.
And I tried it.
Yep.
And so I experienced RSO for the first time.
Yep.
And had this beautiful experience where, we had friends over that knew exactly what we were doing,
Yep.
and that I was trying it so that I felt more comfortable giving it to people. And I remember taking it and thinking I was going to be totally fine. And we were out on the patio and all the kids were playing, and I started to get super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And looked to you and said, I think I need to go lie down.
Yeah.
And I remember lying down and immediately going into this sort of space of unconscious consciousness. And what I now know, because I didn't really know a lot about chakras, but my base started pulsating and then expanding outwards over a period of time. And then it moved up to my second and did the same thing. And then slowly my third and my fourth, and all the way up to the top. And then it just sort of expanded fully into, what I now know as that oneness state.
Yeah.
And then I passed out and slept really hard and woke up. And I remember when you came in to check on me, I woke up and I opened my eyes and I was just like, oh, I believe in chakras now.
Yeah. I understand what chakras
Yeah.
are now.
And it was the most beautiful experience.
Absolutely.
Super intense. And so that was my first experience, and that was on just a tiny
Single
itty bitty
grain of rice.
Yeah.
Worth, yeah.
And then, fast forward many years when we used it for the really icky flare I was in a couple years ago, and I was doing heavy doses.
Your IBS flare.
Yeah. And so that was my first experience with it, trying it to make sure it was safe for clients. And I think I say that funny now, because what we know about cannabis is you cannot consume enough in a concentrated enough form in a fast enough period of time to lethally overdose on the cannabis. Always having to be mindful of the other substances in your system when you take it, because that could potentially be dangerous. But the cannabis itself can't hurt you. It can make you, I always tell people, it can make you feel like you're dying, and then you go to the hospital and they actually give you drugs that you could die from, just to feel okay until it wears off.
Yeah. No, it's very powerful. One sec. Hey, Aki and Ari. Aki and Ari. Can you please let the dog upstairs so he's not whining this whole time, please? I appreciate it. Which dog? The big dog that's whining in the house. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Mm-mm. Super necessary.
Just a part of life. Yeah, cannabis RSO is, you can't really explain
Yeah.
to anyone the feelings, the from the mind, the body, all of it connection to the universe, to the, you can't explain the ethogenic experience to people.
And we laugh when people continue to tell us that cannabis isn't an entheogen.
It was the first.
It was
one of minus mushrooms. So after mushrooms, I think cannabis was one of the first plants that we realized. Like, this was absolutely.
And I think that that's part of the interesting aspect of the healing is what you said, the mind-body connection. So it does all of these scientific things that they research and they prove, and it's anti-inflammatory and it's apoptic and, you know, all of these kinds of things, meaning it actually can like destroy cancer cells. And we could go on and on and on about the science, and we probably will at some point. But the mind-body connection and the entheogenic experience are in and of itself, I think, part of why it's such a potent medicine.
Oh, absolutely.
So then we've had people use the medicine for full cancer protocols, 90-day, ramping up to a gram a day.
We've even had a few continue on after the 90 days too, because they've had such success all the way through their chemo programs.
Right.
So all the way until the end, and then they're still taking it as a supplement.
And it's not a cure if people don't, it doesn't work perfectly for every cancer. So it's just, it's most certainly not a cure-all. And what we've found over time is that when people don't change lifestyle habits, after the protocol, usually things will reflare if they don't change their diet and haven't dealt with the emotional aspects and things like that. So most recently, we've been utilizing it for substance use and for detoxing and managing the withdrawals and helping people connect, mind-body connection. Describe a little bit how you came to realize that this was an applicable tool for RSO.
Excuse me. Well, me personally, this is my own personal history. I've had substance abuse problems since I was a really young boy. My dad had substance abuse problems. My grandparents. I come from a long line of alcoholics and possibly other substance abusers. But me myself, I was a substance abuser. And I was an addict, and I realized at a pretty young age, you know, in my early 20s, when I was trying to deal with things myself, of the potential of the medicine to be used in a state of healing, or, you know, during withdrawals or before withdrawals.
In the myriad substances you were experimenting and using, cannabis kind of acted differently in the group of...
Yeah, it absolutely acted differently. And I could notice it in my body and in my mind, and like, it made me have a different perspective on things and feel different. And so it was kind of like the aha moment of, hey, this might work. And then after our, you know, the morphine patient, the cancer patients, and we kind of had this idea of the potential of using it with all the other kind of, not say bad drugs, but all the other issue ones.
Or using it for getting off of all of
those. Yeah.
And by bad, we tend to mean the ones that create physical, mental, emotional addiction and cause death.
Yeah, absolutely.
We put the bad drug into that.
You're looking at opioids, alcohol, opioids, benzodiazepines, fentanyl, methamphetamines. They're all lumped into kind of the ishy group of they really get a hold of you in a very short amount of time, and they don't allow you to just step away easy peasy. It usually means something else is involved or other help to allow you to step away from those. But yeah, we had this idea about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, of the potential of what it could do. And then it was a little by little, a poco approach of how we really do this, the right way to do this with folks. And, that kind of turned into our RSO protocol for helping, all of those problem areas of helping people step away from that lifestyle in a safe, non-withdrawal state, resting sort of manner.
And I think that's the big aspect, is the way to manage the withdrawals, because people that are having problem use with these substances, they don't wanna be.
No addict wants to be an addict. I've never met one alcoholic or addict that wants to be there. It's really, we're trying to deal with our traumas, and we don't know how else to feel good about our traumas and the ishy shit to be an upstanding citizen,
And then people try to not consume the substances, and because of the physical addictive properties, the mental, physical, emotional addictive properties that are like, it's science. Like, it's not the person's fault.
No, it's all science.
it's
receptor-based science, brain receptor-based science of what happens.
So they try, and it's impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah, well, from a receptor standpoint, your receptor is in an empty state. You have, Western pharmaceuticals that mask those symptoms and mask those receptors. Cannabis actually fills those receptors. So when you're in a state of withdrawal, 12 to 24 hours after you've had your last dose, your receptors are empty and they're craving more. It's a brain chemistry thing where it's sending signals of its fight or flight, right now. What cannabis does very, very, very quickly is it comes in and fills those receptors, so you're not having that impulse, and then it starts healing those receptors so they can actually communicate in a normal, healthy way throughout your brain and your body to allow you to kind of step away without the withdrawals.
So, we've been able to work with people, and we should be careful, I guess. I don't know how careful we have to be, but I like to try to throw these things in. When we host people, we host people for 3 weeks. In home, we prefer. We can stay at a nicer, posher kind of place. But when we have people here, we're not giving them the medicine.
No.
We are educating them about RSO, and we're kind of talking people through how to utilize this medicine in an autonomous way.
Absolutely.
So every time they choose to consume the medicine, there's a conversation with them every day about do they want to, how much, all their choice.
It's a program we work through together of deciding dosages, deciding when, how, all of it. So it's a very open source, open communicative relationship of, all right, now what's the best for you and us?
Right. And we've had the ability to take a 40-year benzo /
heroin, benzo addict, prescribing doctor, one of the biggest prescribing doctors on the West Coast, 40-year benzo addict that came from a heroin addiction earlier, and weaned him in 3 days. So this is like unheard of in Western pharmaceutical science. Like, we weaned him in 3 days and kept him clean with 95 to 98% zero, no
peek through withdrawals.
Peek through withdrawals in the morning, a little sniffle, a little cough. As soon as they had that next dose in, he was good to go. Unheard of.
Right. And then subsequent clients.
But that was
that felt good.
That felt good.
Yeah.
And
part of why it felt good is because we don't have a lot of certificates per se. And
I don't have any
And the cannabis realm that we've worked really, really hard to participate in has been taken over by the likes of people with certificates that don't really actually
understand the plant, use the plant, utilize it, anything. It's the industry now is a legal industry where any college certified person can step into a higher role and start giving advice.
And they have no idea.
And they have no idea. We've been doing this a lifetime now, you know, and it's like, and we do it for the love of it.
Right.
It's not for the money. It's not for anything else but the love of the plant and the love of the human, you know, and like believing in them to, you know, that they are their full potential. And that's us. That's us in a nutshell. For me personally, I don't have any certificates. I've been grinding in the cannabis world my whole life, you know, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's like we're now here we are sitting here at this point of we've had our you know, hiccups, we've had our knockdowns, and we've had our successes, and our successes are huge.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about like healing people and healing your family and friends, and
or
like,
holding space for people to heal,
for people to realize, just to step into that power of like who they are, and I can do this. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, for me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's one of those things that I like all of our different clients in all of the different ways that we work with people, sort of general compassionate care, matching medicines with disease states and just answering questions, doing the integration, self-inquiry work. Yeah. I love holding space with macrodose entheogens, but I will say that I think that the 3-week protocols, especially for people using it for really difficult disease states like cancer and or addiction, are by far the most gratifying for me.
It's the most difficult?
Yeah, they come to us with no other options.
Yeah, no other options, and they're usually, you know, they're at their bottom, and so that's the difficult part, is to not to love them or to hold space with them, just to sit with them in that, because I've been there. Like I've been in that place, and it's a really hard place. So for me, it's one of the most difficult, but it's the most rewarding, because you're walking them home. You know, it's like you're just walking them on this path together over the next 3 weeks to a month and a half of transition time. And it's the most rewarding for them and me, because you get to see this change that like nobody else gets to see, and nobody else, you know, a lot of times nobody believes in them anymore either.
Right.
You know, and it's like showing them that they are worthy and they have this power to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a super huge ego check moment. I talk a lot about, you know, we do the RSO, and then we had this whole protocol, and I believe in the protocol, so I'm gonna kind of shit on myself for a second, but it's important, I think, because it's a really good realization for me to continue to come back to. You know, we utilize what I've, you know, come to through polyvagal theory of co-regulation. So when these clients come to us, they feel totally unsafe in their own bodies, they feel totally unsafe in the world. Most of them, actually every single one, has been harmed by a Western institution therapies prior, many from educational trauma, many from religious trauma, many from sort of conditioned family dynamic trauma. So we really are just providing a really safe place for people to find themselves. You know, it's end of day. End of day, that's all we're really doing. And then we fold in, you know, once they feel safe enough, how do they kind of interact with their traumas in a way? Because every single one of the people that I've worked with, except for I think 2, know their traumas. We've had a few people that have discovered holy shit, this happened to me. But for the most part, it's people that can sit down and they can say this, and this. And that was my story. For years, I could tell you exactly why I was fucked up. But it wasn't really helping me not continue to be fucked up. And so that's when I found the body deva work, the self-inquiry work, where it allowed me then to deal with those traumas through my body, go from knowing in my head to knowing through these places that they were being held in my body. You know, you can read The Body Keeps the Score, and now this is becoming well-known science, but 8 years ago when I was first discovering this, there was only just a few people, specifically for me, Mary Chatan, talking about this and then offering the practices for it. So then helping people deal with their traumas in this newer somatic kind of way has been really helpful in the protocol. And then the nonviolent communication portion, I think, has been not so much like directly teaching the client how to use it, but for us to be sure that we are holding space in a non-violent, non-harmful, non-projecting. That's really what the nonviolent communication tool does for us, is it keeps our ego in check through the language that we use in how we help our clients help themselves. And of course, then that rubs off on them because we're modeling this. And so I'm really proud of that trifecta of the protocol that we use, in addition to the plant medicines. When we do we talk about the RSO protocol, that's one plant medicine that we use, but we often, not all at the same time, but we can use mushrooms and other entheogens. But you know, just talking with a client a couple days ago, where they really put my ego in check and kind of were like, to be honest, all of your protocols trigger me into this sort of healing, from healing to, you know, I'm stealing that from, there's an Instagram person that actually has a site, Healing from Healing, and I follow it. I don't always love it. I think it comes from a bit of a male unhealed perspective sometimes, so it doesn't always resonate with me. But the idea of being really mindful of what healing means and the healing sort of world is really important, because it's causing its own kind of levels of trauma. So when we're trying to receive people here to heal, I mean, end of day, like,
end of day.
There's no denying it. But to just be mindful about what that concept is like. So she basically was just like, yuck. And I, of course, was a little bit hurt, because I had seen how huge of a shift working with us in that capacity was. I had to kind of sit back, but then when I took a deep breath and I asked, I said, so what do you think was helpful? If this is super triggering and the protocols and the language and the tools to this day feel really triggering to you, what was super healing? And she said that simply having the space for her to see herself wanting to heal and trying, even if the tools weren't perfect, was enough for her to realize that she didn't want to die. And so that was like really, it was heavy for me to realize that, like, yeah, I can talk and go on and on and on about polyvagal and body deva, nonviolent communication, and even the science and spirit of RSO. But really, what we are offering people is a space to see themselves, and we know that that self is whole and thriving and capable, and we just need to help that person see that for themselves,
in themselves.
So that was
That's
super.
That is the
crux of it, really.
Crux of it all.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is.
But it hurt for a second. Ooh, my ego is like. But it was a beautiful thing to be reflected back to what we do.
So the jungle. Is there any benefits, do you think, of coming to stay?
Of holding that space here, right?
Of holding that space here?
Well, I think that we're off-grid. We don't have electricity. We have a generator. But I think unplugging is a huge component. You can get self-service. We don't deny the use of phones and connection to the outer world. at all. And we traveled to the local pueblos, this beautiful community center in a nearby place that has kind of a full resource center.
Yeah.
But I do think coming here and experiencing being unplugged is important. I also think that coming here and experiencing being unplugged in a way that isn't like the destination Mexico retreats that are super high end and posh are actually really beneficial for people.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe speak to that a little bit, like, because I can go
Well,
on and on. But
it is. I think the bonus about coming here in the jungle, off grid, in a sustainable, handmade, you know, crafted piece of the jungle is it's real. It is absolutely real. It's like real and us and built by us, and there is no bells and whistles. And when you're trying to, I think, find yourself and going to the high-end, posh, pampered places, it's a fake mask. And when you come out here in a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous spot with all the amenities except electricity and the grid, essentially, it's nature. And I think when you're trying to do this and then realizing your connection back to nature, because a lot of times in these situations of substance abuse and masking problems and running away, you're definitely not connected to nature at all. And so to have that brought back in a beautiful, sort of way is, yeah, it's magical. And when you're talking about you're up with the sun, you're going to bed with the moon, and you get into a cycle of, I'm not on my phone, I'm not on my computer, I'm not jacked in 24/7. And there's time throughout the day to have all that, but it's, when you can enjoy the million fireflies and you can enjoy the birds and all these things, it creates another level of love and compassion that we forget we have.
Right.
And so that's why I think our spot is
yeah,
pretty magical.
We've talked a lot lately. I've been having a lot of trouble with sort of the outside environmental sort of state of the world, and a little bit of existential crisis on what are we doing. And the truth is, we're doing a lot for what we can do with nothing. So that's, I need to remind myself that. But also, the work that we do is not bypassed. We bring people into their bodies, which then connects them to the body, the body, nature. And so I think that that's important for me to remember when I'm feeling a little like perhaps we're bypassing in the work that we do, people coming and having entheogenic experiences and going home and so on and so forth. The three protocols that we do are not that. They're not tourism economy. They are deep, committed work for people that really, really, really need to shift. And that in and of itself is very not bypassed. But when I go a step further to what that means for the future, is the more people that can come into their bodies, undeniably are going to then reconnect with Earth, and then are undeniably going to look around and figure out what they can do to do their little part as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what about, people give us a lot of pushback that our kids are around and how we kind of do this work. And what do you, how do you,
I have to say, I don't think we get a lot of pushback because of our kids. Everyone who knows us knows we're very family orientated, and our children have been with us since we've had them.
Yeah.
So we're, definitely unschooled family unit who is a family unit for the majority of the time. It is, to me, it's a beautiful thing to have the kids around. They've been around for all of our clients and all of our work that we have done, and they bring a level of connectedness of back to the child, but not in any kind of negative aspect. They don't help with the work. They're not in session. They don't.
Right.
They don't do anything. They're kids being kids and having fun and creating and doing art and like all these. So they are here really for, it's like to me, they're almost an add-on. They're an add-on for, and I think our clients that have stayed with us all agree.
Yeah.
They're across the board of, they're a beautiful add-on to this of bringing and showing a family environment that is healthy and I'm pretty sure happy.
Yeah.
With, the non-negative communication and all the things that make us
Yeah, I
who
think
we
we
are.
show the possibility of what
Yeah,
happens when you do the work and you try to heal your own shit as individuals and come together as partners in a different way, and then come together as parents. Because where I was when we had them a decade ago, was a pretty rough place. And so by no means are we this poster child of like immaculate perfect
No,
conception
there's no
and
white picket
a
fence.
decade of perfect rearing of children.
No.
And so really it's like the realization that I was not serving them and I was not the parent that I wanted to be when I had them, and the very slowly developing the tools first to deal with my own shit and then to work on our partnership better, and then to finally focus on direct different style of parenting. And that I fall off the wagon multiple times a day and I have to take a deep breath and I have to come back and apologize and then use different language to communicate. And I think when our clients see that, it provides grace for them, because one of the things I have realized, I grew up as an Al-Anon kid, and I had a lot of conditioning around what it meant to get sober and be sober. And I was improperly conditioned to believe that you should just be able to get sober and stay sober for the rest of your life. And I've realized that that is rare. And there are people, that story exists, and it's a beautiful story, and congratulations to those people.
But for a lot of people,
most people, it is a process. And I think that when you see the process of parenting and literally falling off the wagon by the minute and getting back on, it allows our clients the ability to say, oh, I can fall off the sobriety wagon and get back on with compassion and unconditional love and acceptance. And we've had people that have stashed meds that we've found, that we've had to kind of give them we call it like the come to Jesus conversations, and they think that they're going to have their shit packed up and be out.
Well, that's how treatment centers work.
Yeah,
a lot of facilities.
Yeah. And so to sit down and be able to look at these people and say, how are we not meeting your needs for this to exist? That's like a whole other level for these, for people to have that kind of love shown for them.
Yeah, it's all love.
Yeah.
What other activities are there here in the off-grid jungles of Mexico?
Yeah, so we go to all the beaches. They're beautiful. They're just, we live, 20 minutes in any direction to the beach, basically.
Yeah, our beautiful place is up in the mountains, top of the mountain, and then all the beaches are down the mountain, and it's around a peninsula that shoots out into the Pacific, and there's so much magic that's here.
There's jungle magic, beach magic, there's natural pools, hieroglyphs, there's ancient indigenous ruins, there's indigenous culture, there's layers of indigenous culture. Mexico has such a rich history that there's just so much expansion of understanding that people and the world operate different, and sometimes different in a much less traumatizing way than perhaps what people have experienced living in the United States. And then there's, the Pueblos are international. So there's people from all over, from the United States, from Canada, from Europe, in multiple places near us. We live in this beautiful, tiny little village where we are kind of one of just maybe like 4 or 5 people that are not from here.
Yeah, we were the first family. Yeah. We were the first American family that has moved to the Pueblo, and there's a few others.
And we've been accepted here for what we do. And so, the safety of what we do and how we do it has, we really have found a place where we feel safe and our clients can feel safe.
Yep.
And that's really special here too.
Yeah.
I like when you point out to get a little hippie woo-woo, the ground.
Juju, the magic juju
the ground of the Baja de
Banderas.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about the Baja is it's in a place where you have, so the Warika, the name of the indigenous community that has been here, they were the only group that fought off the Spanish. So the Nayarit, this tiny little state that we are in, is like never controlled by the Spaniards. Everywhere else in Mexico was kind of wiped out, and then they held their ground like right here. So that in itself makes for an interesting vibration because, it is where people stood their ground and said no more. No more. This is our sacred land. This is our spot. So you have like about an hour north, you have these ancient hieroglyphs in stone and natural pools, in they call it a dimensional portal where, they were believed to, it was a portal where they could travel from this place to a place about 300 kilometers inland in another natural setting. So it was like a connection point of how they could travel interdimensionally. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then you have ancient astrological viewing sites on the ocean.
Yeah.
Right?
So this place, this beach that I call Heaven Beach.
Heaven's Beach.
I've called it Heaven Beach from the beginning because
it's really nice.
It's beautiful. It's just heaven, and it's heaven so much so that my donut loving husband one day, like, it's not one of the beaches that is heavily populated and has a tourism economy. And so there's usually never any vendors. And there was one day we were there and not hardly a soul on the beach. And my children, you're playing, the dogs are swimming, everyone, I'm reading a book, and I'm just like, ah. And then all of a sudden, a guy walks by with bolito, with donuts. And I was just like, this has to be heaven. So right in that area is a like super ancient meeting spot from where they would travel from South America up to North America. It was this path spot, and it has all of these beautiful astrological kind of components. And
so they always come and meet and then look at the stars.
Right by Heaven Beach. Yeah.
Interesting. So then you have Heaven's Beach, and you have all these beautiful places, and then this whole peninsula essentially is on a bed of rose quartz. So like rose quartz and white quartz too, it's like they go in these huge veins and pockets through this whole mountain region. And you can definitely tell in certain places from like a vibrational change that you don't understand why or how.
It just feels different.
It just feels different.
Yeah.
And so that is the legend of why this place is so special, is because there is just this, we're on rose quartz.
And I think there's layers and layers and layers that those that have been here stewarding this land for longer than we have could go into detail. And I would love to be able to,
as we should,
to ask someone to speak to that has that. So but it's an undeniably resonant place for us. Yeah.
It's the vibration here is like no other. It's a beautifully magical place.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah, I think that's good for today.
That's it, right?
hmm Hopefully, we'll throw this out and then
Yeah.
people ask us lots of
Ask
questions
some questions.
and know,
Let's do the deep dive.
know where to go from here.
Let's do it, man.
Wonderful.
Cheers. Good morning.
Morning.
Love you.
Love you.